I'm Marissa, and my life in this picture-perfect suburban cage near Chicago has always been a carefully drawn map, every step dictated by my husband Daniel's unyielding control. For 10 years, I've walked his tightrope, suffocating under the weight of his rules, dreaming of a wild, untamed freedom I've never dared to chase. But one chilling night, when he looked at me with those cold, piercing eyes and offered me a taste of liberation, everything I thought I knew shattered. What did I do when the leash finally slipped? And what dark game is Daniel playing as he watches from the shadows? Stick around, because the truth will leave you breathless. Picture this: a quiet, suburban street bathed in the pale glow of dawn, where every house mirrors the next, down to the perfectly trimmed hedges and the gleam of freshly washed cars in driveways. I'm Marissa, 36 years old, and this is my world, just on the edge of Chicago, where life feels like it's been sketched out with a ruler and a fine-tip pen. Every blade of grass seems to know its place, and so do I. Or at least, I thought I did. I've lived here for a decade, in a home that's more like a museum of order than a place to let your guard down. And at the center of it all is my husband, Daniel, 38, a man who could probably alphabetize the wind if he tried. Daniel's a financial consultant, the kind of person who can predict market trends like he's reading tomorrow's headlines. But his real talent? Control. It's in the way he arranges our spice rack, A for allspice, Z for za'atar, and the way our closet looks like a paint swatch, every shirt and dress sorted by hue. He doesn't just organize objects, he orchestrates our life. Date nights? He picks the restaurant, the time, even the outfit I should wear to match the vibe. Dinners? He's already decided the menu before I can even suggest a craving. At first I fought it, those early years of marriage when I'd try to sneak a little chaos into our routine, a spontaneous road trip, a messy art project on the kitchen table. But over 10 years, I've settled into his rhythm. There's a strange safety in knowing exactly what tomorrow will look like, even if sometimes it feels like I'm breathing through a straw. Just enough air to keep going, but never quite enough to feel free. I catch myself wondering, though, in those quiet moments when the house is too still, what would life be like if I could choose? If I could paint the walls a wild color without a spreadsheet of approved shades, or just leave for a weekend without a detailed itinerary taped to the fridge? I've never acted on those thoughts. They're just whispers in the back of my mind, easy to ignore when Daniel's steady presence fills every corner of our existence. But there are moments that cut through the calm, sharp little reminders of who holds the reins. I remember one morning, not long ago, when I left a coffee mug on the counter. Still warm, a ring of brown at the bottom. I'd meant to wash it after a quick phone call, but Daniel was there before I could. His voice wasn't loud, never is, but it was edged with ice as he said, "Marissa, we don't leave things undone. You know that." His eyes, pale and unblinking, pinned me in place, colder than the ceramic in my hands. I mumbled an apology, scrubbed the mug until it shone, but the weight of his gaze lingered long after he'd turned away. That's Daniel. Rigid as a few days have passed since that odd, fleeting comment Daniel made, the one I couldn't quite pin down, though it left a strange aftertaste in my mind. Tonight, we're in our living room, a space so pristine it could be a showroom, not a single speck of dust daring to settle on the glass coffee table. The TV is off, the silence so thick it feels like it's pressing against my skin. I'm perched on the couch, flipping through a magazine, the glossy pages rustling louder than they should in this quiet. Another predictable night stretches out before us, the kind where I can almost hear the tick of the clock counting down to bedtime. I glance at Daniel, sitting in his armchair, hands folded in his lap, staring at nothing in particular. His stillness is unnerving, like a lake hiding something beneath its surface. Then, out of nowhere, he turns to me, his face a mask I can't read. His voice comes low, deliberate, each word measured as if he's been rehearsing it. "What if I gave you absolute freedom and just watched?" My breath catches, and a nervous laugh escapes before I can stop it. I'm sure he's joking, some weird attempt at breaking the monotony, but his expression doesn't shift. Not a flicker of humor, not a crack in that stone-cold gaze. He leans forward slightly, his eyes locking onto mine. "I want to see the limit, yours and mine." My stomach twists, a mix of confusion and discomfort churning inside me. What does that even mean? Freedom to do what? And why watch? My heart starts to race, thudding against my ribs as I search his face for a clue, anything to make sense of this. I force a smile, my voice shaky as I ask, "What are you talking about, Daniel? Explain it to me." But he just offers a faint, almost ghostly smile, then turns away, picking up a book from the side table as if nothing happened. "Never mind," he murmurs, flipping a page. "Forget I said anything." But I can't forget. That conversation clings to me like a shadow over the next few days, replaying in my head at the most random moments. I find myself dissecting every word he says, every glance he throws my way, wondering if there's a hidden meaning I'm supposed to catch. Is he testing me? Playing some kind of psychological game I don't understand? I've always known Daniel to be controlling, but this feels different. Less about rules and more about something I can't grasp. It's unsettling, like walking on a floor that might give way beneath me at any second. I catch myself watching him too, trying to read the unreadable. One morning at breakfast, I'm pouring orange juice, my mind elsewhere, and the glass overflows, spilling sticky liquid across the table. I brace myself for the usual reprimand, the sharp tone I've come to expect when I mess up even the smallest thing. But instead, Daniel just sits. A few days after that strange breakfast moment, where Daniel's silence felt heavier than any words could, he suggested a drive out to the countryside. No itinerary, no explanation, just a simple, "Pack a small bag, we're leaving in an hour." My heart stuttered at the suddenness of it, the break in our usual routine, but I didn't question him. I couldn't. That cryptic conversation about freedom and limits still echoed in my mind, and a part of me wondered if this trip was somehow tied to it. So I packed, my hands moving on autopilot, folding clothes with a precision I knew he'd approve of, even as my thoughts spun in every direction. The drive was long, the kind that stretches time until it feels like a physical weight on your chest. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window as the city gave way to endless stretches of winding roads. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting golden light through the trees that lined the path, their leaves flickering like tiny flames. Every now and then, the road would curve sharply, and I'd feel the car tilt just enough to make my stomach lurch. Not from motion sickness, but from the growing unease that had settled in my bones. Daniel drove in silence, his hands steady on the wheel, his face as unreadable as ever. I wanted to ask where we were going, what this was about, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I watched the landscape shift, the hills growing steeper, the trees denser, until finally, a sprawling property came into view. It was a large stone house, imposing and ancient-looking, with a wide terrace that overlooked rolling hills bathed in that same golden glow. The sight of it should have been breathtaking, but all I felt was a mix of curiosity and dread knotting tighter in my chest. As we pulled up the gravel driveway, I noticed several cars already parked outside, sleek, expensive ones that didn't belong to anyone I knew. My pulse quickened. Who was here? Why hadn't Daniel mentioned anyone else? I turned to him, searching for some hint of what was coming, but he just cut the engine and stepped out, his face a mask of composure. I followed, my legs feeling heavier with each step, the crunch of gravel underfoot sounding louder than it should have in the still air. Inside, the house was cavernous, all high ceilings and polished wood, the kind of place that felt more like a stage than a home. And there, in the expansive living room, were 10 men, strangers. I froze mid-step, my breath catching in my throat as I took them in. They lounged casually, some on leather sofas, others standing by a massive fireplace, their appearances as varied as their ages, late 20s to early 50s, some in tailored suits, others in jeans and worn jackets. My mind reeled. Who were they? Why were they here? My hands trembled as I gripped my purse tighter, a lifeline to something familiar in this surreal moment. Daniel's voice cut through the haze, calm and detached as he introduced them vaguely as acquaintances. No names, no context, just that single word hanging in the air like a riddle I couldn't solve. Panic clawed at me, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. I turned to Daniel, desperate for any sign of emotion, jealousy, anger, even irritation. But there was nothing. He stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed, watching me with an unsettling stillness, his pale eyes unblinking. I felt like a specimen under glass, every twitch of my face, every shallow breath catalogued by that gaze. Then he spoke, his voice low and deliberate, each word a stone dropped into still water. If you say no, it all stops. The weight of that moment crushed me. My mind raced with questions. What did he mean? What was this? Why was he doing this? But beneath the fear, there was something else, a strange pull of curiosity, an unspoken challenge woven into his words. I opened my mouth, but the word no wouldn't come. I didn't say it. I couldn't. The room feels like it's holding its breath as the last of those men steps away, his shadow slipping out the door into the dim hallway of this strange, cavernous house. A heavy silence settles over everything, so thick it's almost suffocating, pressing down on me where I sit, frozen on the couch. The air buzzes with unspoken questions, each one sharper than the last, cutting into the fog of my thoughts. What just happened? What did I allow to unfold? My hands are clenched in my lap, knuckles pale as the weight of my choices crashes over me like a wave I can't swim out of. The men start to leave, one by one, their exits slow and deliberate. Some offer polite nods, their faces blank, while others avoid looking at me altogether, their eyes fixed on the floor or the walls, anywhere but at me. I can't blame them. I don't want to look at myself either. The sound of their footsteps fades, each one a small relief, until it's just Daniel and me left in this vast, echoing space. I'm still on the couch, my body trembling, not from cold, but from the storm raging inside me. Guilt and defiance twist together, a knot I can't untangle, each emotion pulling me in a different direction. I can't bring myself to lift my head, to meet Daniel's gaze, so I stare down at the rug beneath my feet. It's an intricate pattern, all swirling lines and muted colors, and I start counting the threads, focusing on the tiny loops as if they can anchor me, keep me from spiraling completely. 1, 2, 3, I lose track, start over, anything to avoid the reality of this moment. My breath is shallow, my chest tight, and every second that ticks by feels like it's stretching into eternity. I hear Daniel move from his corner of the room, where he's been standing like a statue, watching everything unfold. His footsteps are slow, deliberate, each one echoing in the quiet, a steady rhythm that makes my heart pound harder. I brace myself, expecting anger, accusations, maybe even the final words that will shatter our marriage into pieces. I deserve it. I wait for the storm to break, but it doesn't come. Instead, I feel something soft and heavy settle over my shoulders. A blanket. The wool is rough against my skin, but it's warm, chasing away the chill that seeped into my bones. I blink, startled by the gesture, by the unexpected tenderness of it. My fingers curl into the fabric, tracing the coarse texture, and for a moment, I let myself sink into that warmth, even as my mind screams with confusion. Daniel kneels down in front of me, his movements careful, almost reverent, until his face is level with mine. I don't want to look at him, but I can't stop myself. My eyes lift, meeting his, and I'm struck again by how calm they are, how unreadable. Those pale eyes hold no judgment, no fury, just a depth I can't fathom. He leans in closer, his voice a whisper, so soft it's almost lost in the silence. Now I know what freedom is, and I know you're mine, even after all this. A shiver runs through me, sharp and electric at those words. Relief floods in, mingling with a creeping unease I can't shake. What does he mean by freedom? What does he mean by mine? I search his face for answers, but there's nothing there to grasp, just that steady, impenetrable gaze. My throat is too tight to speak, my thoughts too tangled to form a response. I just sit there, the blanket heavy on my shoulders, as he rises and settles beside me on the couch. His presence is both a comfort and a weight, soothing in its familiarity but suffocating in its intensity. We don't say anything more. We just sit, side by side, in a silence that feels louder than any words could be. Hours pass, or maybe it's just minutes. I can't tell. Eventually, we leave that grand, unsettling house behind and return to our own. The drive back as quiet as the one out had been. Night falls over our familiar. The morning light creeps through the window of this old countryside house, spilling across the room in long, golden streaks that stretch like fingers over the wooden floor. I'm awake before my mind catches up, my body heavy under the weight of last night's memories. I turn my head slowly, careful not to disturb the stillness, and there's Daniel, lying beside me, his chest rising and falling with the slow rhythm of sleep. His face is peaceful, almost serene, and it stings in a way I can't explain. How can he look so untouched after the storm we unleashed just hours ago? It feels like a quiet mockery, a reminder of the chaos that unfolded while he watched, unblinking, from the sidelines. I can't bear to stay in this bed, tangled in sheets that feel like they hold too many secrets, so I slip out as quietly as I can, my bare feet brushing against the cold floor. I grab a robe from the chair, wrap it tight around me, and step toward the door, needing air, needing space to think. The stone terrace outside is cool underfoot, the morning air sharp and biting against my skin as I step into the early dawn. I pull the robe tighter, my breath catching in small, visible puffs as I take in the view. The hills roll out endlessly before me, draped in a soft mist that clings to their curves like a whispered promise. Somewhere in the distance, birds call out, their songs faint but piercing, cutting through the solitude that surrounds this place. It's beautiful, achingly so, but it mirrors something inside me, vast, uncharted, and impossible to navigate. I lean against the rough stone railing, my fingers tracing the weathered edges, and let my mind wander back to last night. The memories flood in, unbidden, vivid in a way that makes my chest tighten. I can still feel the weight of every choice I made, the way I let boundaries dissolve in a haze of curiosity and something darker, something I can't name. And the truth, the raw, jagged truth, is that I don't regret it. Not entirely. There's a part of me that liked it, that craved the rush of stepping over a line I'd never dared to cross before. But guilt gnaws at me too, a persistent ache that won't let go, whispering questions I don't have answers for. Why didn't I say no? I had the chance. The word right there on the tip of my tongue when Daniel gave me that out, his voice so calm it felt like a trap. Was it to test him? To see how far he'd let this go before he snapped? Or was it to reclaim something for myself? A sliver of power in a life where I've so often felt like a passenger? Or maybe, deep down, I wanted it. Wanted to feel the edges of myself blur. To know what it was like to be untethered, even if just for a moment. I grip the railing harder, my knuckles paling as I wrestle with these thoughts. The birds keep singing, oblivious to the war inside me, and I envy their simplicity. But then, as the first rays of sun break through the mist, a clarity hits me like a cold splash of water. This wasn't just about freedom, not for me. It was about Daniel redefining control. Even in what felt like my most liberated act, I'm still bound to him. He orchestrated this, watched it unfold, and in doing so, proved that no matter how far I stray, I'm still within his reach. The realization twists something deep in my gut, a mix of resentment and awe at how seamlessly he wields that power, even now. I hear the soft creak of the door behind me, and my body tenses instinctively. Footsteps approach, slow and measured, and I don't need to turn to know it's him. Daniel stops beside me, and I feel the warmth of his presence before I see the 2 mugs of coffee he's holding, steam curling up into the chilly air. He offers one to me without a word, and I take it, my fingers brushing against his for a fleeting second. The heat of the mug seeps into my palms, grounding me, but I can't look at him just yet. I keep my eyes on the horizon, where the mist is slowly lifting, revealing more of the rolling hills in the distance. The coffee warms my hands, but it does little to ease the chill that lingers in my chest. We stand there, side by side, the silence between us not heavy like before, but thoughtful, as if we're both sifting through the debris of what happened, trying to piece together what it means. I take a sip, the bitter taste grounding me for a moment, and finally, I glance at him. Daniel's profile is sharp against the soft morning light, his expression as unreadable as ever, but there's a quietness to him now, a stillness that feels less like a wall and more like a bridge waiting to be crossed. We don't speak about last night, not yet. Maybe we never will in the way I expect. Instead, after finishing our coffee, we pack up the last of our things in that old stone house, the air inside still thick with echoes of what transpired. I fold my clothes with trembling hands, each item a reminder of the choices I made, the boundaries I crossed in a way that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. We load the car in silence, and as we pull away from that imposing structure, I can't help but feel a strange mix of relief and loss. That place changed something in me, in us, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand how or why. The drive back to our suburban home is long, the kind of journey that gives you too much time to think. I sit in the passenger seat again, watching the countryside blur into highways and then into the familiar sprawl of the city outskirts. The silence between Daniel and me isn't suffocating anymore. It's contemplative, like we're both holding space for the other to process what we've been through. I notice small things as the miles tick by, little signs of a tentative new understanding between us. At one point, we stop for gas, and I watch him through the window as he fills the tank. His movements precise as always, but there's a softness in the way he glances back at me, a quick check to see if I'm okay. It's subtle, but it's there, and it makes my chest ache in a way I can't name. Back on the road, the radio hums softly, some old tune I don't recognize, and Daniel starts to hum along, his voice low and almost absent-minded. It's such a small thing, but it feels intimate, like a crack in the armor he always wears. I find myself staring at him, at the way his fingers tap lightly on the steering wheel, at the faint lines around his eyes that I've never really noticed before. At a red light, he reaches over without looking, his hand finding mine on the armrest. His grip is firm, but not possessive, just a quiet connection. And I don't pull away. I let my fingers curl around his, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. And for a moment, the weight of everything else falls away. It's not forgiveness or absolution, but it's something. Maybe a promise that we're still in this, whatever this is. When we finally pull into our driveway, the sight of our neat, orderly house feels both comforting and jarring. It's the same as we left it, every hedge trimmed, every window spotless, but I'm not the same person who walked out that door a couple of days ago. I step out of the car, the familiar crunch of gravel underfoot grounding me, and I help Daniel unload our bags. Inside, we fall back into routines as if on autopilot. I unpack, folding clothes and tucking them away in their designated spots while Daniel sorts through the mail at the kitchen table, his brow furrowed in that focused way I've seen 1,000 times. He moves to the counter next, wiping it down with a cloth even though it's already gleaming, and I watch him, struck by how normal this all looks. But it doesn't feel normal. The house itself hasn't changed. Same beige walls, same polished floors, same meticulously arranged decor. But I see it differently now. It's like I'm... Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.